Welcome to Codes of Harmony. If this is your first time on this channel, thank you for being here. It's crazy. Of course. 3 ravens in the sky. Sorry, when I finally know that it is time to share all of what I'm calling the volcano codes. The ravens or the crows flying by will make sense. But basically I just wanted to do a little update that's about the process that I'm going through at the moment, and just like the intense level of downloads that I'm receiving. And basically the volcano codes started with 2 different volcanic eruptions from 2022, with a whole bunch of very significant downloads that came in about them. One was the volcanic eruption that happened near Tonga, and happened basically an underwater volcano that then created a very unusual, kind of never before documented electric storm, lightning storm. It's really significant and it means a lot. And then I started getting downloads about a volcanic eruption that happened in Hawaii. And you can look at the video that I've already made, the first video called Volcano Codes. And yeah, I've explained this in 1 or 2, I don't know if it was in that video, but I've been very surprised by this turn, and like you don't know what Spirit has in mind for you. You don't really know what gifts you're going to be using. In the next kind of leg of your ascension. So I thought I'm still traveling as well, so away from kind of all of my sacred objects and my own space, away from my computer, which also has a lot of the research that I did about the volcanoes. So it started with just those 2 volcanoes, and I started getting specific downloads around Pele, who is the goddess of fire and lava in Hawaii. And I'm learning more and receiving more downloads and information, channeling messages. Like, to be honest, it's basically I've been receiving much more past life memories, and it just feels like I'm almost traveling back in time. It feels like the visions and the insight that I'm getting are very profound and mammoth, and expand over such an intense period of time, because of the amount of time. I'm talking about the most recent download that I got, which is now expanded to include 2 it's interesting because that will also come into the extended video that I'm going to do, but 2 other significant volcanic eruptions. And basically I've realized that these volcanic eruptions, specifically around when, how, and a whole lot of cultural, ancestral and spiritual knowledge connected to these volcanic eruptions, as well as I'm realizing there was a huge amount of volcanic eruptions, more than usual, in 2022. And I'm feeling it's just really a huge test as a seer, which is also something that I've been told I need to start identifying with more, is that term seer, to do with my own lineage, as well as past lives. And it is really overwhelming. Obviously, all of this, it's not just me rambling about myself. This is my process. This may also hold significant codes for you and what you're going through in your journey of ascension. If you're just joining, this is Codes of Harmony. My name is Willow, or 9 Lives. And this is obviously a video that is going to be for light workers, oracles and other seers, and people who are doing grid work. I'm also finding that I'm receiving messages in nature more than I ever have before. I'm a First Nations woman, so I've always been connected to nature, but for example in the clouds, cloud gazing, getting lots of different symbols coming in, lots of visits from different animals and specific people from the past, from so-called history, from the recorded human history that we know and understand, as well as basically codes, and feels like there's these whole chambers of knowledge unlocking. They seem to be somehow in my DNA. They seem to be somehow in the many lives that I'm finding out that I've had on this planet, on planet Earth. And that there are not only warnings in these volcano codes that I'm receiving, and messages that I'm receiving, but that they're not just environmental messages, they're messages about what's happening internally for people. And having said all this, like, I really don't know a lot about volcanoes. I'm definitely no scientist. I'm actually quite neurodiverse, and process things in a different way than a lot of other people. And of course, every new part of the ascension journey tells you more about yourself. So it's kind of like I'm learning and unlearning and reclaiming knowledge that I didn't know that I had. And it's also got a lot to do with the eternal ego death. Because I think that some people, when they hear the term ego death, they think that it only happens once, which is not the case. But basically now having to process any kind of shame around having access to knowledge that other people don't. And, because I'm a big believer in equality, and I'm also learning more about the trauma that I have carried from other lifetimes, and specifically around memories to do with witch hunts, to do with colonization, and specifically connected into the kind of battle between the heart and the mind, the internal, the external, and different doctrines and different scriptures throughout time that have been used and manipulated in different ways. and that basically, you know, as the Vikings used to say, the gods are talking to us, and they are particularly talking to me, and I feel so honored and lucky to be receiving these codes, but realizing that I am struggling to not put pressure on myself in the way that I share them because of the intellect, because of the mind, because my human form in this incarnation is the brain, the mind is telling me that I don't know enough about volcanoes, and I don't know the descriptive words and the technical words, which I struggle with already. Again, these will all be messages for whoever happens to tune into this. Thank you for being here. Please take a second to click like if this is beneficial at all to you, and if you are interested in seeing where this journey goes and finding out more about the volcano codes that I'm receiving, then subscribe to this channel. So they're talking to me about things being cyclical. They're talking to me about patterns. They're talking to me about Pangea, which was the original, what we've recorded as the original Earth in terms of different actual land masses being connected in different ways, in different rivers and seas. So I'm talking about a real long time ago. I'm talking about a very, very, very long time ago. The expanse of the downloads is more than, at times it's a lot to process, and yeah, I'm just having to let go. And I am, as well as researching and coming closer to decoding the codes as much as I can, so I can keep sharing them, as well as finding a flow state to be able to channel comfortably in a way that's going to be beneficial to people, and for these messages to get out. I also feel funny because the way to have technically built this channel would have been to be putting out regular readings like any other normal, quote-unquote normal tarot reader, and nah, that's not what's happening. And I went through a little process of being frustrated about that. I'm hearing that a lot of you are having similar things go on in your lives. It could be in your work, it could be in relationships, it could be in self-realization. And I know for at least a month before the first volcano codes came through that I was channeling a lot of messages about reclamation of the past life, of the past self. And just let your eyes drift into the clouds, by the way. And yeah, I'm exploring. I'm also getting lots of different ways to share light codes such as this. You're looking at a little portal of sky alongside a city building, and yeah, so I guess some of the clear messages I can talk about in terms of process right now in Ascension is to really keep track of your Ascension symptoms, and that I think there are going to be some other people like me that are starting to really get spoken to from the environment, from Gaia, from ancient gods and ancient mythical beings, and figures of history from history that I'm experiencing. My astrals are absolutely wild. And then I have other nights that are just like very strange, almost like I go to sleep and I'm just transporting to somewhere, another time completely. You might be going through the same thing. And it really is a battle between the mind and the heart, the spirit, the soul, the other things that perceive and process. Because I know that I can't, if I'm overthinking this, then I can't actually deliver the codes. I can't actually share this knowledge. And this sense of expansiveness, letting go of like any kind of linear thinking around how much information can be held, how much information can be delivered correctly, how my channeled messages, not thinking at all about the fact that they may appear very strange and weird to some people that are just looking for a love reading or just looking for a clear guidance about their career or their family. And I do love tarot. That's the other thing, is I love divination. Obviously, I'm being led to very different forms of divination than what I expected. And even that is a lesson within itself, I think. Getting lots of visions, channeled messages about the ocean, about water creatures that live in the water, about kind of biomechanics, about environmental balance. And I keep getting shown it in the image of like a bowl of ramen that is the kind of the original kind of metaphorical meaning and behind making a good bowl of ramen is for it to be like its own little universe that is perfectly balanced and harmonious. So I'm also getting more understanding about the way this channel actually came about and about my process. And just, I had no idea how connected to my past lives that it is. And I had no idea how epic and the expanse of time that I could channel all the way back to. It's pretty mind-blowing. But again, I need to not be in my mind, not in my head space. I need to be pulling that energy down into my heart space. We all need to be connecting into our heart space more, doing grounding work, doing root chakra work, because there's literally a shift happening in the earth, and that is part of what is being spoken about by the volcano codes. And I'm also contextualizing that with the lack of media coverage, for example, and whether that's about trying to keep people calm and not connecting to what the earth is trying to say to us, what Mother Gaia is trying to say to us, and the lessons and the conversation that's happening between us and our past lives, between us and our ancestors, between us and the forefathers and foremothers and forebears who created cultures, civilizations, who evolved out of times that have some connections with what's happening at the moment. And let me just check my battery. think there's maybe some other clouds that we might want to look at. So listen to your ancestors. They will be visiting you in your dreams. They will be visiting you in synchronicities. They'll be visiting you in the form of new babies in the family. They'll be visiting you. Let me see if I can go a bit higher. Okay. So you might be seeing different images in the clouds in front of you. You might be seeing images in the pixelation that's taking place. You might be receiving images as I'm speaking. You have parts of yourself that are unlocking. You have codes within your DNA, just like below the surface of the earth there are codes and information and knowledge that is wanting to be heard and wanting to be spoken, wanting to be spoken and sung and shared. I'm hearing distractions. You need to be doing active work to block out distractions. You will find that you're shifting into different energy fields and potentially finding that disconnecting from the old life that you recognized. My camera's about to stop working. There's lots of little things I'm doing, like changing the way I'm speaking, even in terms of like, I realize that little thing is such a random thing to finish on, but that the way that people talk about their phone battery quote unquote dying means that people are saying dying like every day or second day. So that's something I'm trying to change. And I'm also telling myself that I can do the volcano codes however they come out, and that all the knowledge is within me. I wouldn't have been gifted with this specific gift at this time in this incarnation for no reason. Thank you for being here. Lots of love from Codes of Harmony.